Please stay with me.
The air was thick with the stench of diesel and scorched earth as I drove up the winding dirt road to Willow Creek. My family's land, nestled deep in the Montana foothills, hadn't seen me in months. Not because I'd forgotten it, but because every visit carved a fresh wound. My daughter, Emily, sat beside me, clutching her old rag doll, her eyes scanning the pines that loomed like silent sentinels. The sky was heavy, gray as gunmetal, and the silence felt wrong, too still, too final. "Is this where Grandpa Henry used to hunt?" she asked, her voice small. I nodded, my throat tight. The land used to hum with life-deer tracks, owl calls, the rustle of leaves like a heartbeat. Now, it was mute, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. I pulled up to the rusted iron gate of our property, a 200-acre stretch passed down through 4 generations. Something was off. The gate sagged on its hinges, and fresh tire tracks wide, aggressive cut through the mud. My gut twisted. These weren't from any neighbor's pickup or ranger's jeep. I told Emily to stay in the truck, her hazel eyes wide with worry, and stepped out. The air carried a bitter tang, not just pine, but something chemical, like spilled oil. My boots crunched on the gravel as I moved past the gate, and that's when I saw it. A massacre of stumps where towering cedars once stood, their roots exposed like broken bones. Shell casings glinted in the dirt. .308 rounds, shotgun slugs, signs of a slaughter that wasn't just trees, but wildlife too. And then, hammered into the trunk of my grandfather's favorite oak, a sign, property managed by Silver Pines HOA. Compliance in progress. Silver Pines HOA. The name burned like venom. Margaret Voss, the HOA president from the nearby town of Elkwood, had been a thorn in my side for years, citing me for unmaintained brush on a road she didn't own. Now she'd come for my land, my daughter's birthright, and defiled it. I ripped the sign down, my hands shaking with rage. This wasn't just trespassing. It was war. The wind carried a warning as I trekked toward the cabin, a cold whisper that raised the hairs on my neck. Emily's scream shattered the silence, sharp, desperate. My heart stopped. I dropped the splintered sign and sprinted through the ravaged clearing, dodging felled branches. There, in the shadow of a rusted oil drum, stood Margaret, her tailored navy coat smeared with mud, her manicured nails gripping Emily's braid. My daughter thrashed, her ragdoll limp in the dirt. Margaret's lips curled into a sneer. "This land's under reclamation, Mr. Harper." Your little pest was snooping. "Let her go," I roared, storming forward. Margaret didn't flinch. Instead, she yanked Emily's hair harder and slammed her head against the drum. Emily crumpled, blood trickling from her temple, her cry piercing the air. Something in me snapped. I lunged, tackling Margaret to the ground. She shrieked, clawing at me, but I pinned her wrists, my voice low and lethal. "You touched my child." 3 men in tactical vests emerged from behind a trailer, one filming on his phone, another chuckling as he spun a crowbar. "She went feral, bit the boss," one mocked. "Train your kid better, Harper." Rage surged through me. Margaret struggled, spitting. "This land's ours now. Your daughter's blood just seals the deal." I didn't think. I grabbed her by the collar and hurled her into the men, sending them sprawling. Standing between them and Emily, I growled, "You picked the wrong family to bleed." Margaret scrambled back, her coat torn, her eyes wide with fear for the first time. "You're done, Harper," she spat, blood on her lips. "This property's seized for noncompliance. You assaulted an HOA officer." I stepped closer, my voice ice. "You assaulted my daughter. You burned my trees. You'll sign for it." I pulled a notarized copy of the deed from my pocket, my grandfather's signature etched in faded ink. Margaret laughed, shrill. "I'm not signing anything." I drew my hunting knife, its blade catching the fading light. "You don't need to sign. Just bleed." Her bravado cracked. I grabbed her hand, pressed her thumb against the blade just enough to draw blood, and smeared it on the deed. "That's your mark," I said, tying her wrists with her own scarf. The men, dazed, didn't resist as I zip-tied them beside her at the gate. I planted a sign above them. "Trespassers. Land thieves. Child harmers." Emily, shaking but standing, clung to my side. The forest seemed to exhale, as if it approved. Dawn brought trouble. Not the sheriff, but two black SUVs with tinted windows and federal plates. A man in a gray suit stepped out, calm as a snake. "Mr. Harper? I'm Victor Crane, Federal Land Oversight." He glanced at Margaret, still tied, her face bruised and mud-caked, and didn't blink. "Miss Voss claims assault during an HOA survey." I tossed him the bloodied deed. "She attacked my daughter, raised my land, and faked her authority. Check the paperwork." Crane's pause told me he knew the deed was real and that they didn't care. "We're here to negotiate," he said smoothly. "Compensation for relocation." I laughed, bitter. "You sent bulldozers and thugs. You hurt my child. You'll choke on what you try to steal." He warned of larger forces, but I held my ground. As he left, Margaret screamed, "This'll be condos by spring, Harper. Your line ends here." I leaned close. "Next time, I don't use words." That night, I found a flash drive Crane had dropped. It wasn't just zoning papers. It was a blueprint for annihilation, Project Voss Legacy, a luxury resort with helipads, a man-made lake, and a fortified golf course across 1,500 acres. Margaret had filed claims before we were notified, planning to erase our history for profit. Emails revealed her sneering at local resistance and calling Emily feral. I punched the cabin wall, my knuckles bleeding. She'd named the project after herself, a monument to her greed. I took my axe to the ridge where her Voss Overlook stood, a granite platform for her elite donors. Each swing cracked her legacy, the stone shattering into the valley below. "You built this on stolen roots," I growled. "I'll bury you here." Margaret didn't back down. She struck harder. At midnight, I woke to the stench of gasoline and the roar of flames. My barmy father's last gift was burning. I fought the fire with a hose, but it was no use. Across the clearing, Margaret stood with two hired guards, smirking. "You should have stayed quiet, Harper," she called. "This land forgets you." I raised my phone, drones already recording. "They'll remember you falling." The live stream captured everything. Her gloating, the arson, the guards' laughter. It beamed to the Department of the Interior, local news, and neighbors' phones. Margaret's face paled as she saw the drone's lights. "Smash them," she screamed, but it was too late. Federal trucks roared up the ridge. "Margaret Voss, step away," an agent barked. She bolted, but I chased her through the pines, tackling her to the ground. "I'm the voice this land never had," I hissed, handing her to the feds. She thrashed, screaming, but the cuffs silenced her. By dawn, the fire was out, but the barn was gone. Margaret faced charges: arson, assault, illegal land grabs, and more. The footage went viral, news helicopters circling like hawks. I didn't speak to reporters. Instead, I gathered our community neighbors, rangers, farmers in the meadow where Margaret's bulldozers had scarred the earth. We built a stone arch from the boulders she'd tried to blast, a plaque listing the lost elk, cedars, my grandfather's memory. "This land isn't mine or hers," I said, Emily at my side, her head bandaged but her spirit unbroken. "It belongs to the roots, the history, the blood that feeds it." She tried to erase it. She failed. The Silver Pines HOA collapsed. Margaret's mansion was razed, replaced with 150 saplings, one for every acre she burned, one for the daughter she struck. Her name faded, but her face lingered on a billboard. This is what happens when greed forgets its place. Every spring, we gather under the arch, planting seeds, telling stories. The forest hums again, alive with tracks and birdsong. Margaret came with fire, but we answered with roots. And roots outlast flames. Justice wasn't loud. It was steady. Margaret's downfall wasn't just her arrest, it was the community saying, "Enough." Her lies crumbled when exposed, and Emily, the girl she hurt, now walks our land unafraid. There's a lesson here for everyone. Silence breeds predators like Margaret. They thrive until someone draws a line. You don't need an axe or a forest to fight. Sometimes it's a camera, a vote, or a neighbor's hand. What do you think? Was I right to fight fire with fire, or did I go too far? Share your thoughts in the comments, especially on violence and injustice in our world. Stand up, speak out, and let's hear where you stand.